Go with what you love to do, because the energy with which you create your product is more important than your product itself. This world is changing, and that is amazing. We are indeed moving from a paradigm based on greed, fear, having power over others, and controlling others, to a paradigm that is based much more on community, communication, connection, ideas, and creativity. This is the perfect time for soulpreneurs to figure out how to make business work in a way that makes sense to the current situation so that we can continue the shift toward a more loving place for everyone. I'm your host, Laura Christine, and here on the Boundless Soul podcast, you will hear stories and inspiration, tips and techniques from fellow soulpreneurs so that we can get out there and not let anything get in our way. No tech, no limiting beliefs or energetic blocks, and no disorganization. It is time for us to shine, and Boundless Soulpreneur, you are in the right place for exactly that. Aloha, and thank you so much for tuning in to your Boundless Soul and the Boundless Soul podcast. I'm Elsie, and today I'm going to address a question I've been getting from quite a number of clients lately. Should I start a podcast or do videos? Should I start a podcast or a YouTube channel? Have you been asking yourself this question lately? Or have you been asking others or the universe this question lately? If so, this episode is for you. So the reason I'm putting this together is to help make your choice easier if you are asking this question. We're going to cover questions to ask yourself for clarity. We're going to cover similarities between podcast and YouTube, and of course differences. We are going to re-look at that question, should you? And of course, we'll do a bit of a recap. So let's start. First of all, there are certain questions to ask yourself if you're asking this question. Is a podcast better? Are videos better? Either on Facebook or Instagram, or YouTube is really popular for good reason. Here are a few. What do I enjoy doing? Really important. Ask that question. What do I enjoy doing? And then make sure you're asking yourself what your intention is for having either the podcast or the YouTube channel or videos. What is your intention? Is it marketing? Is it creating community? Is it going to be a standalone product? Are you trying to monetize? Ask that question. Really know what you're doing it for. On that note, who are your clients? If you're not sure about this, or if you think it's everyone, that's going to have to be another episode. And I probably will do one on clarity fairly soon. But real simply, who do you want to see succeed more than anyone else in the entire world? That's your ideal client. Another question you can ask is, taking my ideal client into consideration, which would serve them better? And then just to complete the circle, if one or the other comes up as a better way to serve your clients, of course, do that one. If either of them come up, if it could go either way, ask yourself what you would love to do. And if one of them comes up as the one, but you're feeling really, really pulled to the other, go with what you love to do, because the energy with which you create your product is more important than your product itself. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Remember this. The energy with which you are creating your product is more important than the actual product itself. You are a soul-aligned business person. It is always about your energy. Okay, so let's talk about the similarities between a podcast. And when I say a podcast, I mean the standard, typical podcast that you can hear on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Castbox, a podcast app. I'm not talking about a video on Facebook or on Instagram that people are calling a podcast, but they can't actually download it from a podcast player. When I say YouTube, I mean YouTube because for some good reasons, it would be the best route to take if you're doing videos, in my opinion. But it can also mean you can substitute Instagram or Facebook for YouTube, okay? Or any other video platform. It's just that I'll be using YouTube because everybody knows that YouTube and video go together. So here are a few similarities. One, look, they both take work. It's not easy to produce a podcast or a YouTube channel. It's just not. You can delegate, and we'll get to that, but know that it's not just a walk in the park. It takes time, effort, and work. It takes work to do these things. So number 2, if you do a podcast or you do a YouTube channel, you want to be specific. Who do you serve? What outcome do you want them to have? What's the topic that you're going to be covering? And who is your ideal client? Who are you talking to? Aloha, welcome to Hawaii. My neighbor's playing the ukulele. I hope you don't mind. I think it's kind of a sweet little background noise, if you can even hear it. It's fairly soft. Number 3, research. I would say that you can put as much time or as little time into research as you'd like to. You probably in general would put more time into research for a YouTube channel, but that is not to say you don't spend any time on it for a podcast if you want to be spending time researching. That will help you reach more people either way. So this is keywords, this is topics. What do people want to hear from you? You might have that answer already. Your clients might be asking you a similar question like mine have been, and it just hit me, okay, I'm doing a podcast on this. But there are other things that I look up and I research on the topics that I want to cover, on the questions people are asking, and on how many people are searching for particular keywords. All right, so number 4, structure. They both need a structure. You want to have an intro and outro. You want to have different segments. You want it to be outlined, because if you think about it, whether you're putting out a podcast or you're making videos, you're doing it for a purpose, and that purpose will be served best if you have a structure to follow. The 5th similarity is production. You've got to record the audio or you've got to record the video. You have to produce something if you want to have a product. That's a pretty easy one. And that's the funnest part. That's the part I'm doing right now. You're hearing the funnest part of this. What you're not hearing is how much, and this is the next one, number 6, is the post-production. This is the editing. This is making sure it all aligns. This is inserting the ad. This is getting that intro clip that you're hearing. Post-production takes a lot of time. If you're not doing it, that means somebody else is doing it and you're paying them. So it either takes time or it takes money. There's 2 more. So number 7, similarity. Promotion, you're gonna have to promote it either way. With YouTube, because YouTube is a search engine, some people will find it without you promoting it. And really same with your podcast if you do a really good job with your keywords, but you're going to want to promote them either way. That means via email, via connecting directly with people, via social media posts. You're gonna have to promote it. And finally, number 8 in the similarity section here is, and I'm going back to why are you doing this? What's the purpose of it? But I'm gonna spin it a little bit differently. What is the purpose of your product? Are you educating, elevating, or entertaining, or something else? What is the purpose of your product? You're gonna wanna know. My intention is that my podcast both educates and elevates. And hey, if it entertains sometimes, all the better. But if you're not sure if you're trying to uplift people, or if you're trying to educate people, or if you're trying to simply be entertaining, then you're not gonna have the focus. And either way, podcast or video, you wanna have a purpose. And again, just remember, be specific with that purpose. Who is it for and what do they get? All right, so you know there are a lot of similarities between creating a podcast or creating a YouTube channel or videos. Now, what are the differences? Well, there aren't as many, but there is one very obvious difference that might seem silly for me to mention, but a podcast is solely audio. When you're downloading a podcast or streaming from a podcast app, you're not seeing any video. And a YouTube video is a video. So you are seeing it and you're hearing it at the same time if you're looking at it. Video editing, this is another difference. Video editing, so the post-production for videos, is a little bit more complex because of the fact that you're seeing it and you're hearing it. So it just makes sense that it might be a little more challenging. It also can make the actual production of it a little more challenging because you know how detailed the editing is. If you move around a lot when you're talking on video and you have to cut out sections, you're gonna look a little bit choppy. It doesn't really matter that much, but it's just something to consider. That said, I will say that interviews on podcasts can be similarly complex because now you're working with 2 different audios instead of just the one. With videos, a lot of times you're going to want to add different elements like B-roll, which is videos or stills of other things, not you when you're talking. Whereas in the audio, yes, you can add additional sounds, but it's just not as complex. Video, of course, this is another thing that might be a little bit obvious, but videos can convert to a podcast, but not vice versa. So if you create a video, you can pretty easily create a podcast from your video. If you only record audio, you can put that into a video, but you're not going to be seen as the speaker. You're going to have to use a still, which is really boring. Who wants to watch that? Nobody. You're going to have to use a lot of B-roll, which is that extra stuff of cars driving by or the ocean waves or whatever, or a mixture of stills and B-roll or just stills. It's really hard to put a podcast into a video format. It just doesn't really work that well, and I don't recommend it. Plus, it's just extra work for you. And you've already got a great podcast. Why would you need a video too? Same could be said for the videos. If you've already got a great video, why do you need a podcast too? And this is getting into energy management a little bit, which is something that I teach. And it's so important to be aligned as a soulpreneur with your energy. If you are trying to do everything, think about where your energy is. It's out there. It's over there. It's way far away from you over there. It's kind of close in over here, trying to get these people to listen to you, trying to get those people to see you. How many different things you do is just going to extend your energy out away from you. If you are more focused, your energy is with you. Your energy with you is what magnetizes your clients to you, your growth to you. So if you're trying to do everything, stop, focus, come back to yourself. Let your soul tell you what is right for you. Okay, that was a little bit of a tangent. I'm going to come back here now. And I'm going to just remind you also, this is one more difference. And I know you know this, but they are consumed differently. So again, going back to your people, how do they like to consume their information? Would they rather hear it? Would they rather have it on their drive or their walk? Or would they rather sit down and watch a video? Because you can't really watch a video when you're driving, but you certainly can listen to a podcast. So just think of that. If your people commute, you probably want to do a podcast more than a video. But if your people are YouTube fanatics, then you're going to want to do a video. Or if your people are on Facebook constantly and sit there and watch videos, then do videos. So get to know your people as well as you can. If you don't know your people, you know what? Do what you love, because that will attract the people that love that to you. So let me recap just a bit. This is the question. Are you asking this? Should I start a podcast or a YouTube channel? You could ask it that way, or you could ask it this way. Should I start a podcast or a YouTube channel? See the difference? It's like, should I do one or the other, or should I do one of them? Here's the short answer. No, you should not do anything. You should. However, would you like to do one of them? Do you feel it would benefit your people? Here's an analogy for you. I'm going to use it a lot. I use it in my training and with clients. I love it. If you have a tree in a pot, that tree in the pot is your ideal client. That pot is how they're limited right now. You want to give them the space to grow. That's their transformation. You want to take that tree out of the pot and plant it in the ground. This takes work. This takes effort. You have to dig a hole. You have to get that tree out of the pot, put that tree into the hole, and nourish it. You need to give it the dirt and the water and the fertilizer it needs to grow and flourish, because your end goal, I hope, is to see your ideal client flourish. So if you think about your ideal client as a tree in a pot, you will do what it takes to dig that hole to nourish that tree into its flourishment. If a podcast or a YouTube channel is going to help you dig that hole and provide the fertilizer for your client's flourishment, and you would enjoy doing it, then absolutely do it. I have not enjoyed anything as much as making a podcast until I started working with soulpreneurs on their tech and on unblocking their limiting beliefs and all of that and getting them going on their journeys and flourishing. I love my podcast. And frankly, I like to be in front of a camera too. So I started a YouTube channel. I learned how to make it work. I haven't put the effort into it because I'm focusing. But I know how to make it work, and I can help you make yours work if that's the way you want to go. I can also help you make your podcast work if that's the way you want to go. So if you are looking for one-on-one support, reach out. Head over to beingboundless.com/discovery, schedule a free call, literally no pressure. If you're not my tree, I won't try to make you work with me. I just won't. Or if it's not the right time for you, no worries. It's all good. And just, keep listening to the podcast and getting info that way and see if that helps you. And again, consider, would you enjoy researching and creating and editing and marketing your podcast, or delegating any of it out and paying for it? So just remember, if you're willing to dig deep, if you're willing to water and fertilize that tree until it starts to flourish, because it may take time and it does take effort. But if that all aligns with your soul, then absolutely, absolutely go for it. I hope this episode helped give you some clarity on whether or not you quote unquote should start a podcast or reignite the fire under yours, or a YouTube channel or videos on Facebook or IG or wherever. If it did, if you feel like you benefited from this episode, or you know people who are asking that same question, as so many people are these days, share the episode. Give it a 5-star review. That helps more people find it, helps us build this beautiful soulpreneur community, and I'd love to read yours on a future episode. And if you do decide to start a podcast or YouTube channel, let me know what it is. You can find me on Instagram at being.boundless. And as always, thank you so much for being boundless with me. Thank you so much for being on this amazing soul journey with me. It's a pleasure to be here with my guests and with all of you. Please connect with me on Instagram. Please connect with me in the Gathering of Boundless Souls. And if you're looking for one-on-one support, I am a very good listener. I listen energetically, and we get to co-create flow state within you and within your business. I specialize in working with soulpreneurs on tech, making sure that everything's flowing and making sure that you feel awesome about your website and about how you're connecting with your community. I also help you work on managing and aligning your energy, whether that be an energy session with me or a strategy session for your schedule. So go ahead and grab a discovery call at beingboundless.com/discovery. You can get the link in the show notes, and I will see you soon. Until next time, thanks so much for being boundless with me.